Next Level Conversation with Jeff Gabriel.
Banner definitely does encompass all of this. So, it's just like you said, like, because Black lives are put on the line so much, we have to be at the front of this, because
right.
If we're not, then everyone behind us doesn't matter either.
That's a really good point, because I was just sort of like riffing there a little bit, thinking about this, and the Black lives, the Black people that are at the forefront of this movement, they're really at the forefront of this movement for everyone that's feeling kicked down, kicked in the ass, having a hard time. Things could be a lot easier for, having a hard time financially, just in their neighborhood, with their work, with their career, dealing with people, dealing with the fear of the world, dealing with the coronavirus. And, the Black community is standing up and being really, really brave for everyone. And I don't think I really realized that until having this discussion with you guys. And that's why I knew it would be really cool to talk to young people, young Black people in a young generation, because you know what, I don't have an opportunity to all the time, and I don't think a lot of people do have an opportunity to speak to young Black people. They don't run across. I mean, this sounds like, the way I'm presenting it sounds awful, but the truth of the matter is that, like,
a lot of people don't understand, like, because of the issues that we have when we do meet each other, it does stop us from talking to each other. It does stop us from being more diverse, especially, since before the pandemic, since before, the Black community had that, basically the crack with George Floyd. We never really had these discussions since maybe the 60s or the 80s. So this whole movement was long overdue for all of us to come together, and we didn't know that we would have the, I guess you can say, the audience that we are having today. We just kind of, like you said, like, we are being brave, but it's something, because we deal with it every day, we just kind of process that fear with a focus, and we have to make sure that whenever we step forward, it's a step forward into, okay, if I'm thinking about myself, how do I think about others in the process when I walk forward?
Right. That's a really good point. But I think it's also really important, like, I've gotten to know you guys over the last few years, and I've grown up in the cities, and I've always known Black people, and I've had some Black friends. I can't say that, the majority of my friendships are with Black people. They're not. But I think part of the problem is, I'm going to be honest, the majority of the people that I know or I grew up with are white, but I've always made an effort to have friends of different ethnicities. And especially the young people today in school, there's many, many more ethnicities that are mixed together in schools. When I grew up and I went to high school, it was like white Jewish, white Italian, 15 Black people, 2 Asian people. That was the mix. And that's how people grew up, not really having the intimate experience to really get to know, different ethnicities, and recognize that their desires, their dreams, their aspirations, or just what's important to them is very much the same as everyone else. And people don't have the experience, and I've really, any Black people that I've gotten a chance to know, I've really enjoyed it. And I think that I hope that doesn't come across the wrong way, but what I'm saying is, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's so many people that will make a statement about another ethnicity, and they don't even fucking know anybody in that group. They don't hang out with anybody in that group. Like, I would trust my child with you guys. I think you're both wonderful. Anthony shows me his artwork, and I think he's, like, super freaking talented, or his video capabilities, and Tasha, your designing capabilities, or just your way to communicate. Like, I don't want to sound like a sycophant here, but I mean, I just think it's really important that for racism to go another level, people need to make an effort to really get to know the different groups and give themselves a chance to be connected and figure out a way to be connected to different ethnicities. And that was another reason why I had you guys come on today because I wanted to talk to you and I wanted you to tell me what's going on and I wanted you to tell me how you feel about it and what you see. And I want people to be able to see and hear you guys because you both are wonderful people and you both have great minds and great observations about what's going on. Do you have any other feelings about like how the police are getting just reamed over this? I mean, look, the guy was a horrible dude, and that guy deserves to go to jail. But not all the police are bad people. I think we all recognize that, right? How do you feel about that?
So this isn't specifically about the police officers as a problem, more so than it's about the system that allows the bad officers to do what they do and get away with it without any problems.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a little bit of the cold.
Understand is specifically the cop that killed George Floyd had around 14 to 17 other complaints about him.
Yeah.
In the span of a couple years. Right. That man should have not been
still
on the force.
A police officer, yeah.
If you're getting 14, 17 warnings from the community that this person is policing that he's a problem, and you ignore that, you're complicit in whatever crimes that this officer commits. And that's kind of the problem, where there seems to be very little accountability where there needs to be more.
What do you think about this defunding the police? I mean,
So when they're saying defund the police, what they're saying is change the judicial system the way that we know it currently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of there being one main police force to deal with every problem, we should have several agencies split up among certain, reoccurring crimes, because crime is predictable. That's one thing that we know. Now
Crime
that we're able to do statistical analytics and things of that nature, crime is predictable. You can not only tell who's going to commit a crime, but you know which areas are more favorable to certain crimes than others. So you can have dedicated response teams or dedicated agencies to tackle certain issues that cops are not equipped to deal with. Cops can't talk down somebody with mental illnesses. They're not trained.
Yeah.
Cops can't respond adequately to domestic violence situations. They're not trained. So what we are asking for, what Black Lives Matter is asking for, is to take the multi-million-dollar and sometimes billion-dollar budgets from these police departments that they're using to basically militarize themselves, take that money away, split it up into different agencies, split it into education, because education always takes a major hit every year, no matter who's in office. Put that money into the neighborhoods, because if you raise the standard of living, you basically get rid of the need for crime or the want for crime by criminals, because most of these people aren't choosing to be hardcore criminals. They're choosing to live.
Why do you think that the police you say militarize themselves? Why do you think the police are moving in that direction?
Well, for one, a lot of it has to do with the fact that how they approach us. They assume that because so the example of how you experienced high school, when you don't have that intimate experience being with a diverse crowd, and you are told like now you have to watch over or police a specific area, and these people do not look like you do not know how their behaviors are, it's always going to be an unknown of the fear that, oh, am I offending this person? Oh, how do I deal with this? So when they come to us and they approach us, obviously they want to subdue the issue, but in that process, they subdue us. They use tear gas, they use rubber bullets, they use the kneeling on the throat. Like it's not necessarily something that is the best way to go about it. And this is one of the complaints that we've had, where we've explained to them that we need you guys to understand that we are human and you should behave with us as if we're human. And that can come in many forms. Like Anthony said, like put the money into education. They can take classes. A lot of people are actually advising the police to do a better job at the learning process and being able to do those things, taking classes to be able to understand mental illness, basic mannerisms of different demographics and races and ethnicities. Jersey City, for just like to put that out there, we're about 65% more diverse than, like, we have 65% diverse police officers in here that are from the city, which is why our issue with police officers isn't as great as you could say other states and other cities.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Jersey City really has, and just for those who are listening, you know, you guys are in Jersey City, I'm in Jersey City too, right outside Manhattan. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, we didn't have any violence here in Jersey City, nor do we have much in Newark, which
LA riots, we had our riots of our own, and Jersey City basically burnt down the city for like 3 days. So we just haven't had it for a long time, and people here are.
It didn't happen recently, but that you're talking.
No, this was around the LA riots, 1960, 1965.
No, but I'm saying, recently, I mean, Jersey City is a very, it's a diverse community.
Yes.
I mean, because it has an extremely large gay population, big Indian population, Korean, white, Black. It's one of the reasons that I actually love being here, and that I'm raising my son here right now, because there's just so many different people. And I think, you know, a lot of the diversion and polarity that's going on in the country, in different parts of the country, is just that there isn't so much of a mix like there is here. Even Manhattan has become very homogenous. You know, Lower Manhattan is not diverse anymore. It's wealthy.
Diversity needs to be a thing. Like, you need to actually have that, not only diversity, but you need to have that heart there where people actually want to be with each other, because you can see in other cities where they do have some diversity, but obviously some people don't like that, and they need to understand that it's that uncomfortableness you have with another ethnicity is not something you should go off of and use as an offense. You shouldn't even use it as a defense either. You should just see it as it's different, but it's not bad, you know? That feeling we have in Jersey City is just the fact that we know we're all coming together to a city to live. And that's one of the things that growing up here, I've noticed that we're all just kind of trying to make sure that we can get to day by day together. Because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, then the city falls apart literally. Because whenever there's any problems in the city, it's not necessarily the police that are called. It's usually like neighbors talking to each other about it. Like whenever we have those events downtown, or we have any events over on West Side for, you know, the annual summertime situations, it's always the communities coming together, making sure, like, you know, are the tents set up? Are all of the food catering set up? Like, it's more of like we have to talk to each other to make sure that happens.
Well, make sure you have one of those events. You let me know so I can come down.
Yeah.
I want to bring my little boy Reese. What's going on with like the stores in the community? Do you see stores opening up again in your community? Do you see any new development in regards to commerce or stores at all? Or any local people starting new business, or were starting new businesses before Corona? What's going on in your local community that way?
Well, luckily for us, a lot of the Bergen Lafayette area, we're all pretty close with one another. You have a lot of like kids where they'll grow up with, you know, the owner of a corner store, or they'll grow up with the owner of a restaurant, being in that restaurant. So it's kind of like, you know, you become a regular, you know, you guys just talk personal things, you know, barbershops and hair salons and things of that nature. So we've all been more or less keeping tabs on one another. You have stores where they're starting to open up and people are supporting. People have been supporting through Corona, even with, you know, a lot of people struggling financially and things like that. The one thing that I haven't seen is like a lot of selfishness around here. A lot of people are being team players. A lot of people understand the struggle as far as, you know, what people are going through. We had a lot of people handing out food.
Yeah, a lot of
a lot of people handing out clothing and things like that to the homeless people in the area. So, we have been looking out for one another through this. And a lot of this is us where, we are taking care of each other. We're doing what in certain communities, the government is doing for other people, where, you have police officers in, I think, New York, where they were handing out masks and gloves to people who were hanging out in the parks. But there are people who are in the subways and things like that, and they don't have masks because they didn't have access to them. So it's kind of like that disparity where you have, you're expecting this to happen, or you're expecting to get this kind of treatment from the state or from the government, but you're getting it from your neighbor. And I think that is kind of what's pissing people off a lot, that their idea of what the government should be doing is changing because we see what is possible.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people where they're like, well, I know that this can happen, and you start to question why it isn't, and you start to look at, the elected officials.